Good morning, Nudelberg Daily Huddle. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome back to the Huddle. Excited about this Thursday because we've got our Women's Summit tonight and great stuff going on. But I'm a little bit jealous because you and Dad got to spend dinner with Lori Kosneski last night, and I was not a part of that. How was it?
It was fantastic. She's obviously here for the women's event that's going on tonight. Super cool to kind of finally meet in person, get somebody's story, kind of really learn about somebody, you know. Even Dad was like, I know you, but I don't really know you, you know? And so we found out about her family, really cool story, kind of a career Pennsylvania person, but super cool. And excited for her to kind of meet a lot of the people that'll be there tonight and for everybody to be in the same room.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, obviously there's that going on. Good morning, Joy. Good to see you here this morning. She'll be there tonight. Saw Jen Lederer post about it this morning and her being at the airport on her way here. So there's Lori. Good morning to you as well. So it's going to be a great group of people excited about tonight. And as I said yesterday, we are pretty close to max capacity, but I had a couple people call in a few favors last night and we found some open spots. So if you're starting to think, oh man, I should have gotten a ticket for it, or I should be there, just reach out because you never know what might happen.
It's good to see all the YouTube icons on the comments.
Hey, you know what? People are listening and people are joining the Nudelberg Daily Huddle page. They're subscribing there. And when you show up there, it's the best place to interact with the rest of the community. So as we said, next week, it will no longer be found anywhere other than the Nudelberg Daily Huddle page on YouTube and Steve Nudelberg's page on LinkedIn. Because even though LinkedIn is very spotty here and there, we're not going to drop it because that's our playground. But we are trying to push the community more and more towards YouTube so that we can continue to drive the engagement and grow the community.
I'll tell you, Mark, it's Thursday. How's your week been? Having a good week?
Week's been great. Week's been very busy. And this morning, I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm gonna be authentic. I'm gonna be honest here. I overslept this morning. Like my eyes didn't open until 6:45 a.m. It was the alarm that goes off normally.
Was there a panic involved?
Full on panic. Like, you know, but it's, you know, because like the initial shock is, oh my God, like I didn't get up. Slept past my workout, slept past my reading and my writing, slept past walking Lou. Like there's a lot that happens between 4:30 and 6:45. So when it went off, it was like full panic. But then, like, you know, the best part about having a system and a process is then it was like, all right, what do I absolutely have to get done right now? And how do I get all of it done in the next 15 minutes?
That says loser, which, yeah, of course. He's never overslept. Never overslept. Never missed a workout 100% for the last 50 years. But it was funny. You even talked about it in your speech this weekend. Your keynote to Estelle about, you know, urgent and important or important, not urgent. That's important. It's not urgent. You will get to it, blah, blah, blah.
There are things that didn't get done that I was like, all right, well, let me just reprioritize right now. Like, I know I got to get Lou out. I know I got to get the baby up. I know I got to get showered and get ready. So like the LinkedIn post got pushed a little, you know what, but almost all of it got done.
You reevaluated, I think, is the most important thing that you did. You took a second to stop and say, I need to figure out. Like most people, when they miss something, they just run to the next thing and never get around to prioritizing again. So,
and that was like right after, you know, really motherfucking myself for oversleeping the alarm, being like, why didn't I get up? Like, what happened? You know, like full panic at that. But we got a great show. We're going to talk about mentor-mentee relationships. We're going to talk about communication styles. But before we can get to any of that, we got to wake up. Well, let's go. It is National, what is it? National Mentor Mentee
Mentoring
Day?
day.
What is this?
Mentoring day. I think
National Mentoring Day, which for those of you that follow the Huddle closely, for those of you that have followed our teachings, mentoring and being a mentor and being a mentee is critical to success in life. It's critical to being able to push yourself and be able to have your blind spots pointed out to you and be able to grow. I was fortunate last year to spend some time with a transportation company and help them set the foundation for their mentor mentee program, and did a whole training on what it meant to be a really good mentor and what it meant to be a really good mentee. But as on National Mentoring Day, who comes to mind for you when you think about mentors?
Well, look, was that like a layup for yourself? Were you trying to throw
No,
like
honestly, no, I don't know. I mean,
no,
yes, I know it's me, but like, come
right.
on, let's
But
go with somebody else. Keep
I,
me on my toes here.
so I have to say Juwan Sider. It's the first guy who put me under his wing. And I think what was interesting looking back about it was we related on a personal level first. You know, I think it wasn't just the fact that we were in the same profession. And sometimes I don't even think being in the same profession is that important sometimes. I think the traits, the other lessons that you can learn from somebody kind of go beyond just the expertise or the competency or whatever you're trying to get trained on. And so me and Juwan had a lot of just synergies talking and, you know, being human and what we found important and cool and music and stuff like that. That then led to me to be like, hey, I really like this guy. Let me watch how he goes about his process, you know, and let me see first, like, how he does it. Does that fit me? Do I like it? And start examining. And he did, you know, the way he grinded, the way he watched film, the way he was smart about where he put his time and attention. So I was always gravitated toward him, but it was a two-way street, you
So
know.
I think this is interesting, and I've never really like analyzed it this way, but something that's starkly different about the coaching profession or the football profession compared to, you know, the business world is the amount of time you spend together. So like in football, as a young coach, you're offered the opportunity for mentorship from pretty much the whole staff. Like you guys are together all the time. So there's a lot of different people that you could emulate, that you can be around, that you can study. But what usually ends up being the people who end up being the ones that really make an impact on you are the ones who go out of their way to take the time and build that relationship. I think that's so important because you talked about it. It was relationship first. I've been around a lot of really successful people that I thought I wanted to be my mentors, but we just didn't vibe. Like I didn't click with who they were as a person. We didn't connect on our values. We didn't connect on the way they went about their business. And even though they were really successful and there was tons of things I could learn from them, the mentor-mentee relationship really didn't pan out because we couldn't be connected as people first. When you think about Juwan, what do you think are some of the things that really he impacted you on, or what were the behaviors that really caused him to be a good mentor for you?
Well, he taught me along the way. He didn't just do and watch me watch and have no idea. He was like, hey, do you know why I did this? You know why I taught it this way? Do you know why I see it this way? Do you know why we called it this way? You see what the safety's doing here. That's why we're going to do this. He took the time out to really care about my learning, said, I know you don't know everything. And by making you a better person, you're going to make me better because you're around me. And so it was that I was bought into him. There was there was skin in the game by both sides. There was, hey, I want you to be better so you can help me while also helping yourself and vice versa. Like I wanted to be better to help him do better. And I kind of think that's the two-way street that a mentee and a mentor have to be invested in each other, I think, you know, and the benefits that come.
And you were in an interesting working environment, having, you know, the head coach that you did there. For me, being at Florida State, you know, I think about Eddie Grand being my ultimate mentor and the guy who created the biggest impact on me. And one thing that stood out to me with our relationship was he put me ahead of the organization, right? Like he wasn't just yes sirring, and he wasn't just going through the motion saying, hey, suck it up and deal with it. He was having real conversations with me about, hey, look, you've never been anywhere else. You don't know how other head coaches have done it. This is my fourth stop. I'm telling you, this isn't necessarily the way you have to do it. And he was putting my growth and he was putting my professional development ahead of, hey, just suck it up, or hey, this is the way we do it here, so just do it that way. He really went out of his way to ensure that my mentorship was something that was happening outside of just what was going on within the organization and helping me understand and grow my perspective. I didn't have to then be at 4 other schools to understand the way that Lane Kiffin ran his program, or the way that, Tim Hudson ran his program, or the way that Tommy Tuberville had run his program at Auburn. I was able to get all of that knowledge and experience through him, which elevated me so much quicker in the profession or amongst my other competitors in the space, because I was getting a wider perspective and going, all right, I see the game a little bit, and I was able to play it at a higher level.
And it's fortunate, but I think it's almost we talk about it a lot, like when they go into someone's office and complain to you and it kind of taints your thoughts a little bit. Like sometimes that relationship almost hinders you in the workplace because you're privy to some information that you probably wouldn't get if you didn't have that relationship. And it's like being able to take that information and not change your attitude about your job and about the other relationships that you have in that building with the head coach, with whoever it may be, and know that there's still a role for you to play, and separating the two, being privy to that information, being behind the closed doors, it's still understanding how to operate around everybody else.
So, and Joy drives a great point here. She says, my mentor always challenges me on the way I'm thinking, making me consider a different possibility. She's also unapologetic about expecting excellence. That to me there was never any kind of reprieve from what the standard was with Eddie. Like I knew, and through coaching and through developing, knew what the expectations were, knew what the standards were. And there was never a give. There was never oh, don't worry about that today. Or there was never a like, hey, this isn't that important right now. Standard was the standard, and you were expected to meet that. And that helped develop my consistency day in and day out. But it was his focus on that. It was him saying, I'm not going to allow you to be less than I know you can be. And then I'll never forget the first time that we met with another staff. It happened to be Mario Cristobal. He was the head coach at FIU at the time. And we met with their entire staff. And he introduced me to Frank Ponce, who was the special teams coordinator, as the best GA he had ever been around. And I was like, wow, all right. Like that was a moment of recognition that I really hadn't received since started working with him. And that to me made it all worth it. And it was like, all right, a guy who has the standard that he has for excellence is willing to introduce me that way. That was everything. But so I think, part of the mentor-mentee relationship though is being a good mentee. And I think, in order to be a good mentee, you got to really have some of your own direction, and you got to be willing to take your responsibility in that half of the relationship. It's not necessarily driving all of the things you're going to learn, but it's the willingness to ask the questions. It's the willingness to show up consistently and show up prepared, and not just be like, hey, you're the mentor. It's on you to teach me.
Right.
It's on you to kind of, how did you do that with Cider?
Well, I think I asked, that was the thing, was like, hey, why did you guys do this? Why do you do it this way? Why do you treat the players this way? Are you worried about being too friendly? And then when you have to, you analyze the situation and you develop that relationship so you feel comfortable to ask these questions, And I think sometimes by doing that, you almost push the mentor as well to analyze his own process and be like, oh, I never thought about even how I did that. It's interesting that you caught that. Like, that was something I developed. You start to really analyze it. But I'm curious in this, technology world and, work from home, do you see mentors, like finding a mentor being harder now in today's world? How do you go about putting yourself around the right people to find one to do that?
So here's where this is an interesting question. I think it's never been easier to find a mentor because the access to people is unlimited, right? Like the ability to get to somebody and connect with them that is somebody that you look up to, or somebody that you feel like is somebody that you might be able to have a good mentor-mentee relationship. The difference is how do you foster that relationship to figure out whether or not it's a fit? I think that's harder. And I think it's harder in a work from anywhere environment. I don't see us going back to a work from the office full time. So we have to challenge how we develop relationships, how we foster those relationships. And to me, the game changer in that is the use of video. So can you have a great mentor-mentee relationship with somebody who's across the country from you? Absolutely. But it comes to how do you consistently use video to communicate with each other, to have the right. And I think most people, when they hear video, they go, oh yeah, you just zoom back and forth all the time. That's not it. That's not the only thing. It's the asynchronous video. It's the ability to send videos back and forth, to feel like you're with each other consistently, even though you're not. That to me is the key to fostering a good mentor-mentee relationship, is what tools do you use to create the environment? You might not be within the same four walls anymore. That doesn't mean you can't still have the same kind of relationship.
And that goes for any leader that is working with his people as well. Me and Mark just did it. Little check-ins through the day. It's pretty simple.
So easy.
There are so many tools.
But it take us to morning motivational music.
It is Throwback Thursday. The #1 hit. What was it? 1973.
That is correct. October 27th, 1973. This was the #1 hit. It's the greatest.
On that midnight train to Georgia. Yeah. Said he's going back to a simpler place and time. Oh, yes, he is. Now be with him. I know you will. On that midnight train to Georgia. I'd rather live in his word than live without him in mine. World is his and hers alone. He kept dreaming, ooh, that someday he'd be a star, a superstar, but he didn't get far. But he sure found out the hard way that dreams don't always come true. So he pawned all his hopes, and even sold his old car. Bought a one-way ticket back to the life he once knew. Oh, yes, he did. He said he would. I'm always leaving on that midnight train to Georgia.
City's going back. Great song. Absolutely. An all-timer. I mean, it doesn't matter when you play it. It doesn't matter when you hear it. You immediately just stop and you just start stepping in line like you're the Pips.
Another weird day in history. Today is the day the New York subway opened. Fun fact for all you New York people.
Love it.
Well, yeah.
So continuing with the mentor-mentee conversation, part of having a great relationship is you got to be a great communicator. And I found this article that talked about 4 different types of communication styles, and they broke them down as the passive communication style, the aggressive communication style, the passive-aggressive communication style, and the assertive communication style. And essentially, they talked about all 4 of them, with 3 of them really being bad and 1 being good, being the assertive, which I don't necessarily agree. You know, I don't think that there's only one style of communication that works. I think there's different blends of them that work. But the point that it was making was that if you have a passive aggressive communication style and you are constantly holding back what you think, and when somebody says, hey, what do you think we should do here? And you go, it doesn't really matter to me. What do you think? You know, or I'm good with whatever the team wants. The reality that that's your actual opinion is pretty low, right? I mean, the chances that that's what you're actually thinking are pretty low. Even if you have very little skin in the game, you probably have some kind of thought one way or the other. So passive aggressive doesn't really work because it doesn't afford the team any opportunity from what you're thinking. And it definitely doesn't afford you the opportunity to share your voice. But the inverse of that, which is the aggressive communicator, is hands down
right?
is hands down the toughest to deal with, because as soon as you assert yourself in an aggressive manner in communication, number one, you're going to shut down everybody who's got a tendency to be a passive communicator. And then you're going to create conflict with anybody else that is an aggressive communicator. So you're going to show up and you're going to say, well, this is what we need to do, and this is why we need to do it. And you're going to say that it's going to appear to everybody that you have no room for influence and that it's your way or the highway. Passive aggressive combination obviously doesn't work because
it could be the worst, though, in my opinion.
Why so? Tell me why you think that.
It's like the person who, like, you know, has a bet and it's like, I don't really care what we do, you know, and then they go to the pizza place, or, you know, and it's like, oh, I hated this place. I knew it shouldn't have come here. And it's like,
right. I mean, that was the coach in the room that was like, you know, oh yeah, sure, you know, let's run that on third down or whatever. And then you ran it on third down. They're like, I told you guys this shit wasn't gonna work. Like, I don't know. Like,
you're like double stabbing me in the back like twice, which
right.
Like, and it makes it like the worst. Almost like
or in a team setting, you know, they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm fine with that, but don't be surprised if Joe from service he's not gonna like it. You know,
right. But takes, like, to me, like, that's a complete lack of responsibility. Whereas, well, passive is obviously a complete lack of responsibility or taking any in it. But like, in at least passive, you're staying out of the way. So if you're not a leader, you'll get lost in the pack, and it might be bad for you. But as a team environment, I don't think you're going to hurt it as bad. You're not pushing it forward. But if they know you're a passive person, they're probably not looking for you to be making the decisions anyways.
So that assertive communication style is not saying, hey, this is the way I want it done, and this is this is my way or the highway, but it is taking control and asserting and saying, here's what my thoughts are, right? Or here's what my perspective is, or here are the things that I think are important to the success of this plan, of this strategy, whatever, you know, getting us to the next milestone, whatever the conversation may be about. But it's inserting your thoughts, your beliefs, right? The things you hold as important to success, but inserting it in a way and providing it in a way that there's room for feedback, that there's room for influence, that there's room for other people's opinions. And so by just saying, hey, here's what I think, right, that may offer other people the ability to be able to chime in on it. Or if they don't, then saying, hey, I'd love to get everybody's opinion on this. Or, hey, I'd love to get your feedback on that. Part of my coaching conversations, whenever I offer a piece of perspective, is always, hey, what do you think about that? Right? Like, tell me the way you felt. Right. Tell me what your opinion is on what I just shared with you.
And I think that's the responsibility of the person who's leading, you know, to create that environment and create that platform for people to feel kind of, you know, that the guard is down, that you're not asserting yourself, that you're not like, hey, I understand I'm the lead voice, but I'm cultivating this environment where I want you to. Don't be passive. Like, don't come at me with those side comments as well, but give me your thoughts and please push the group forward.
And if as a mentee, you want to take the most advantage of the conversation of the relationship as you can, if you really want to get all that you can out of it, you have to be willing to speak up and say, here's what I think here, so that you can be told that you're wrong, right? So that you can get the perspective and from the mentor's point of view, they can go, hey, I understand why you see it that way. Here's some perspective from 40 years in it and what's happened when we've gone that way or what we've done. And you go, great. Now as a mentee, I've got learned experience, not the actual experience. I didn't go through it, but I've got learned experience because I was able to offer my perspective and learn from the group, from the rest of the group. So
telling me they shouldn't tell you, no, go do it, but it probably won't work.
Right, right. That's right. Exactly correct. So thank you for a great show this morning. Super excited about our Women's Power Summit tonight. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. It's going to be a great night. Have a fantastic Thursday. We will see you guys for a Finish Friday. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business.